The Big Law Business Report is proudly sponsored by PVI Furniture and Big Law Business Development.
Where big law meets big business, this is the Big Law Business Report. I'm your host, Brian Brown. Joining me in the studio today is the law firm of Ogletree Deakins, Homer Deakins, Matt Keene, Michelle Wimes, Melissa Bailey, and Sarah Hawk. Let's get started. Welcome to the Big Law Business Report, where big law meets big business. I'm your host, Brian Brown. Joining me in the studio today is Homer Deakins, founding member of Ogletree Deakins Law Firm. Homer, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today.
My pleasure, Brian.
All right, so let's get right to it. So, Homer, what made you decide to start your law firm? What's it been, 40 years now?
This is our 40th anniversary.
Outstanding.
And we left another firm basically because of culture issues.
Okay.
It was an organization which was more top-down management.
Right.
And we said we'd like to have a firm where we listen to everybody before we decide what to do, to follow more of a team approach.
Got you. So when you talk about this team approach, I mean, a lot of law firms talk about having partners. You have shareholders.
We have shareholders today. We
Right.
started as a partnership, but as we grew and expanded office-wise, it became from a tax purpose necessary to incorporate. So we now have shareholders.
Got you. So when you first got started, Homer, what were some of the initial challenges that you faced?
Well, the challenge we faced in the early days was from the general practice firms, the large general practice firms.
Right.
Most large corporations wanted only to deal with one firm.
Sure.
And so they gave all their work, including their labor and employment work, to the general practice firms.
Gotcha.
Over time, that changed, and the labor specialty firms, as we are, began to get more of the work.
Gotcha.
Our rates were better, our geography was better in the sense we had more offices spread out across the country. So the general practice firms over the years have become less of a competitor for us.
Got you. So you found yourself specializing more so obviously just doing employment and labor issues. You were able to then go back to those CEOs, those in-house counsels, and say, hey, this is the Ogletree Deakins value proposition, so to speak, because we're much more specialized, we're much more focused.
Yes, we have always been a specialty firm.
Right.
We have only done labor and employment work, but we're a full service labor and employment firm. We would not only handle an EEO case
Sure.
or a union relations issue, we would handle a benefits question, an occupational safety question, an immigration question. So we're a full service firm versus a general practice firm that doesn't have that sort of depth.
Got you. So, Homer, what are some of the challenges that you see, facing your firm? Because you are employment specialist, what are some of the challenges that you see, and where do you see the direction of firms like yours going?
Well, the biggest challenge we have today is a shrinking market.
How so?
Well, there's just not as much work out there as there used to be. So
Gotcha.
the result is, if you're going to prosper and be successful, you've got to get a bigger share of the market.
Gotcha. So, Homer, we need to take a break. After the break, let's continue on that thought because I want to learn a little bit more about what your thoughts are there.
Okay.
All right, very good. We'll be right back.
What does your office furniture say about you and your company? Is it making the right impression for your company and your employees? At PVI Office Furniture, we have office furniture for every budget. We'll make sure your office space is sending the right message.
Fast, excellent, affordable. Business grows with PVI. Visit our showroom in Frederick, Maryland, or online at pvipvi.com.
Welcome back to the Big Law Business Report, where big law meets big business. I'm your host, Brian Brown. Joining me in the studio today to continue our conversation is Homer Deakins, Chairman Emeritus, named shareholder of Ogletree Deakins Law Firm, and Matt Keene, who is the managing shareholder of Ogletree Deakins. Gentlemen, thanks again for continuing our conversation. So, Mr. Deakins, when you and I talked one-on-one, you talked about 2 + 2 = 6. So, I did okay in math. You're going to have to help me understand that one.
Well, what I'm saying is that if we hire a lawyer who has a practice and that lawyer comes into our firm with its footprint, that lawyer is going to increase his or her practice, and we're going to increase our practice by having that lawyer's clients do work in our other offices.
Gotcha.
So simple mathematics is 2 + 2 = 6.
All right, simple mathematics, Ogletree math, huh? That's some good math, though. Well, as we know, you've been able to grow and expand over the last 40 years without having some innovative math going along the way. It does make a lot of sense. So, Matt, I'm going to touch on the 2 + 2 = 6 just here for another second or two. So again, as the managing shareholder, basically the CEO of the firm, how are you taking Homer's 2 + 2 = 6 and expanding and growing on that model?
Well, we track very closely the amount of work that is generated in one office and worked in another office, because it really wouldn't make any sense to open 52 separate offices doing 52 sets of local work. The model is that we'll share work between the offices, and I think that's one of the areas that's been critical to our success, is just the whole culture of sharing, of collaborating, of working with your fellow shareholders and associates in other offices. And so we encourage that, we facilitate it, and we track it. And as we're recruiting lawyers, we find lawyers who have the kind of national relationships that they'll be able to send work to other offices. And we have the conversation, much like Homer just had, and show them example upon example where lawyers have come with a certain amount of client work
Sure.
in a certain geographic area, and how they're able to get that work throughout the system, and they do better and we do better.
Got you. So, Matt, I'm going to dovetail on to that question. A lot of law firms talk about, well, it's important that we understand our client's business, right? And, we're going to come by your offices and we're going to wander around for several hours. I'm not quite sure what they do while they're there, and I guess they're probably billing their clients at the time. But what is your approach? What's the Ogletree Deakins approach to understand the client business? Do you see it through their eyes? Do you ask them questions? Do you maybe shift not so much from lawyer into consultant role, or kind of how you take the approach, and what's the culture?
Well, we have a client service pledge that all of our lawyers sign, and the first item is that we pledge to clients we will understand your business and objectives. And the main way we do that is through developing these long-term relationships with clients, as well as very deep relationships where we're in many cases handling all of the client's labor and employment needs throughout the U.S. and sometimes globally.
Sure.
And just through that volume of work, we get to understand their business. We usually will have a client team across our different disciplines who will work with that client, develop a lot of institutional knowledge, and then we figure out ways to share that knowledge, either through knowledge management. We use that client extranets, client teams, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to capture, because what clients don't want to have happen is for us to handle one case in California, have a second case in New York, and the lawyer in New York acts like they've never learned anything from that experience elsewhere. So we do that, and we talk to our clients frequently. We have a pretty robust program of client assessments where our client services department and then Homer and some of our other former managing shareholders will go out, meet with clients, learn how we're doing, how we can improve. We have an innovation summit every year where we get ideas from clients. What do you need to help you do your job better?
Wow.
So I think it's the constant communication is where we learn the client's business.
Well, that's impressive. Gentlemen, Matt, Homer, hold those thoughts for a second. We need to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We'll be right back on the Big Law Business Report.
A&A is your doorway to the world, to new experiences and untapped opportunities, to destinations like Tokyo and the rest of Asia. Our renowned Japanese hospitality makes even the furthest journey as effortless as a single step. And it's all by design.
Welcome back to the Big Law Business Report, where Big Law meets Big Business. We're continuing our conversation with the lawyers from Ogletree Deakins, Matt Keene, who is the managing shareholder, and the Director of Professional Development and Inclusion, Michelle Wimes. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's continue the conversation. Sure. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you. A lot of firms talk about diversity and inclusion and how important that is. And in some instances, I mean, we all believe them, obviously diversity is important. But in this particular scenario at Ogletree, where do you see this as a unique value proposition? Where do you see this as a differentiator for your firm?
Well, first of all, Brian, we want to provide exceptional client service to our clients.
Sure.
And to do that, we need the best talent. And having the most diverse group of lawyers and staff that we can find allows us to have the best talent in the field. Secondly, our clients have diverse workforce. We represent companies that have worldwide, global workforces.
Sure.
That are very diverse. Diversity is important to them, so it's important to us. And I guess third, by having a diverse workforce, diverse lawyers bring different perspectives that we would not have if we did not have a diverse workforce, allows us to be more creative, and allows us to provide better solutions to our clients.
So, Michelle, in your role as Director of Professional Development and Diversity and Inclusion, where do you see the importance of diversity and what Ogletree is doing, and particularly with your client base?
Yeah, I think it's very important. We want to mirror, kind of like what Matt said, the values. Right. We want to live the values that our clients express, and our clients are increasingly doing business in global marketplaces, and so they are marketing to global customers, and they want their service providers to be able to be as diverse as well. And kind of the return on investment that I see is we've been acknowledged or rewarded by many of our clients for our diversity efforts. And then we've also received some national awards too. And so I think things like being recognized by Law 360 as the #1 firm for Black attorneys, being recognized by Working Mother Media and FlexTime Lawyers as one of the top 50 firms for diversity for working mother attorneys. And then, also something is, for the first time, we received a perfect score of 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index. Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah, and that measures LGBT inclusiveness, right, our policies and our practices. So I think, we are gaining recognition in the area, and that's part of the ROI.
Sure.
I also think it's really important, too, to make sure that you have diverse attorneys who are engaged in the firm, who are actively involved, and who are supported to be successful, and who are moving up through the ranks. And I know you're going to talk to David Powell, who's one of our board members, and Melissa Bailey, who's another board member. We have, at this point, 33% of our board is diverse.
That's impressive.
Huge.
There's not 300 law firms that have combined to have 33%. Yeah, I said it. It's my show, right? That's one of the great advantages of having me being the host of the show. So, Matt, coming back to you. So, this investment in diversity, how do you measure the ROI? I mean, or is it just we feel good about it because Michelle's here and we got David Powell and we've got Sarah Hawk? I mean, how do you measure, or how do you look at that investment?
Well, I think we see very tangible results. I mean, particularly by combining the professional development with the diversity inclusion initiatives, we're getting better training, we're getting better engagement by our lawyers. Michelle mentioned the many awards and accolades we've received, both from clients as well as respected organizations.
Right.
And so, that certainly, you get scored on those. And,
Absolutely.
100% is better than 50% is better than 25%.
Absolutely.
So we've seen the increases that we've gained. And then lastly, there's an ABA initiative where clients are asking to see the lawyer to actually work on their files. They're not, it's not enough to show that we're a diverse firm, that we've got diverse leadership. Clients are asking, okay, on our matters, let's see the diversity on our matters.
Right.
And we stack up pretty well
And
in the surveys we've done.
Yeah, and I would think not only are they looking for the people who work on the matters, but can those people actually work on the matters, right?
That's right.
Some folks get away by diversity. Say, well, we'll bring Brian Brown in because he's an African-American man, barely older than age of 40, and so we'll bring him in. Forget the fact I don't have a law degree. This is immaterial. Maybe we can come there and try to be quiet, which is going to be impossible as well. But you're actually bringing your diverse, from what I'm understanding, again, knowing Michelle over the years and knowing the firm, you're actually bringing diverse lawyers that can bring something to the table.
That's right.
Beside, I meet a diversity checkbox. Well, folks, we're a bit out of time. We're going to go for a break. Don't move. We'll be right back, and let's continue this conversation. We'll be back in a moment.
When I first started out, it was all pencil and paper. The Surface Pro is very intuitive. With the pressure of my hand, I can draw lightly, just like I would with a real pencil. I've been a forensic artist for over 30 years. I do the composite sketches, which are the bad guy sketches. You need good resolution, powerful processor, because the computer has to start thinking as fast as my brain does. I do this because I want my artwork to help people.
Welcome back to the Big Law Business Report, where big law meets big business. I'm your host, Brian Brown. We're continuing our conversation with Ogletree Deakins. We've got Melissa Bailey, shareholder and on the board of directors of Ogletree Deakins in the Washington, D.C. office. Melissa, thanks so much for joining me today.
Nice to be with you.
So, Melissa, you do OSHA work.
I do.
Okay. What's OSHA?
OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. It's part of the Department of Labor. It's the agency that comes out and inspects workplaces looking for violations of OSHA standards and also investigates workplace accidents. So the consequences of an OSHA violation, really OSHA can make you do two things. They can fine you. So you could be looking at penalties of around $12,000 for a serious violation, around $126,000 for a willful violation. And then OSHA also can require you to change your equipment, change your procedures. Oftentimes, those are really the bigger ticket items when you think about changing your equipment or your policies across an entire company.
Got you. So when I think about OSHA standards, I'm thinking about a construction site or maybe a oil rig or something like that. I wouldn't think I would have any type of workplace violations in my company where, we're writing code all day. We're building the next killer app for a smartphone. Would there be OSHA opportunities there or OSHA issues there too?
There might be. I mean, we work across a tremendous range of industries. I mean, the ones you would think of, like construction, oil rigs, manufacturing.
Sure.
But we also do a lot of work in retail, a lot of work in food service, and some work even in office environments. So you'd be surprised at the reach that OSHA has.
Got you. So just touch on office environments just for a second. Obviously, we never ask you to talk about anything that's happened to a client, but how would an office have OSHA violations?
Sometimes that can be workplace violence issues. Sometimes that can be chemicals that are used around the office. And oftentimes these days, it's your contractors. OSHA focuses a lot these days on work sites that have multiple employers. So if you're using temporary employees, if you're using contractors to do janitorial work, for example, oftentimes that's how you get caught up in an OSHA investigation.
Got you. I see. So I'm a CEO of a business. Why should I be? So I'm a CEO of a business. I'm in technology. Why do I need Melissa Bailey to help me? And where should I bring Melissa Bailey into the mix with me? Should I do it as I'm just getting started? Should I do it now? I've got 200-300 employees. Where do I start engaging Melissa Bailey to help me?
Well, I'll give you the classic lawyer answer of it depends. I mean,
okay.
I think most of the phone calls that I get from CEOs or EVPs focus on one of three or four things. I get a lot of phone calls asking, how can we be best of class in terms of preventing serious accidents? Because the CEO, the EVP, they don't care so much about the minutia of that OSHA standard. They want to make sure their people get home safe every day. And that really is the most important thing to everybody.
Sure.
We do so much work and are so large and sophisticated across so many industries, we can often help companies really benchmark. I'll get a call saying, in your experience, how do companies deal with this particular issue or this particular hazard? I also have a lot of conversations about managing OSHA liability across a company. It may be that you get a little citation in New Jersey that seems pretty innocuous, but if you accept that citation, what's it going to mean for your facility in Texas? What's it going to mean for your facility in Florida? Because OSHA has the ability to issue repeat violations and willful violations that usually come with press releases, come with a lot of adverse publicity that can really damage your relationships with your customers and your employees.
Gotcha.
And then finally, I get a fair number of phone calls about how do we prepare for this? If you're in an industry where you may have a fatality, OSHA's going to be there in a couple hours.
Sure.
So if your team isn't ready to deal with OSHA and do it in a way to minimize your liability, you're really going to be at a disadvantage.
Got you. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. I look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Brian.
You're quite welcome. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Big Law Business Report. I'm your host, Brian Brown. In the studio today, I've got Sarah Hawk, shareholder for Ogletree Deakins. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Brian.
So Sarah, your area of practice is business immigration. What's business immigration?
Well, Brian, it is a very specialized field of law. We basically help companies transfer their employees to the U.S., hire foreign national employees in the U.S., and basically strategize with them for their international workforce and their global mobility solutions.
So when you talk about, transfer and hire, what exactly do you mean? And I've heard these different terms about all the different types of business immigration visas. Can you kind of go over that with me and sort of explain a little bit about each one?
Yes, well, many companies have worldwide networks. They might have subsidiaries in different parts of the world, and they may need to transfer their executives, their managers, their specialized knowledge employees to the U.S. So basically there's an L1 intra-company transferee visa to do that.
And what's this again, the L1?
L1.
L1.
Yes. But the employee must have worked for the company abroad for at least 1 full year out of the past 3 years to transfer them to the U.S.
Gotcha.
And it's a very versatile visa. Unlike the H-1B visa, there's no quota, so you can sponsor anyone at any time during the year.
Now, with this L1, is there a time limitation on the amount of time they can work in the U.S.?
Yes, most work visas have time limitations. So the L1A for executives and managers has 7 years for a total limit, and for specialized knowledge employees, it's 5 years.
Okay.
During that time, the company could sponsor them for a green card process to allow them to work permanently in the U.S.
Gotcha. Now, when you talk, I heard you use the term specialized knowledge. What's specialized knowledge? I'm a school teacher, and, that sort of thing. What's specialized knowledge?
Someone with specialized knowledge knows the company's proprietary processes and products and have had training with the company and can bring that knowledge abroad to the U.S. company.
Gotcha. So what's the advantages of someone, this proprietary specialized knowledge is very interesting to me. So what's the advantage to the company that's here? So you got a company that's overseas and they have an office, a location here. So you want to bring someone overseas. So this person has this specialized knowledge. Why would you bring them here? I mean, you can't find an American that can do that?
Right, and that is something that most Americans don't realize, that there are industries such as the high-tech industry where you can't find enough U.S. workers to fill the roles that are needed, especially in STEM degree fields.
Gotcha.
And so you might have a computer programmer abroad who's working for the company, knows the specialized knowledge of that company, and wants to bring it to the U.S. to expand that market in that specific niche of field.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you talked about the H-1B visas, and there's been a lot. Seems like a lot of talk in the news about H-1B visas. Tell me a little bit more about H-1B visas and where do companies come in? You talk about a quota in the lottery.
Yes, the H-1B visa is the most common work visa in the U.S. and companies use the H-1B visa to hire people who have a bachelor's degree or higher. And there is a quota. So the quota is 65,000 H-1Bs per year. There's another quota for 20,000 U.S. master's degree individuals. But out of that 85,000, we see that the quota runs out every year on April 1st, the first week of April, and many companies cannot hire the individuals that they wanted to hire. So there is a high demand for H-1B worker visas because of the high-tech industry, the financial industry, et cetera.
Got you. So in this lottery system, are most of those coveted H-1B visas going to the bigger companies, or do the smaller boys and girls get a chance too? Or?
Right. I mean, that's the problem with H-1B visas. It's a lottery system, so anyone can apply, and many of the large companies scoop up the H-1B visas, and there are not that many left for the small and medium-sized companies who need those people to grow their company. Many of them are entrepreneurs who have smaller companies, but they can grow those companies with the right workers.
Well, that's fantastic. Sarah, I tell you, I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge, obviously, clearly, in this area of law, and I definitely want to have you back on the show. I think I know quite a few of the folks in the audience are going to have a lot of questions to me and probably a whole lot of questions to you on this process. So again, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, look forward to having you back. We'll be right back on the Big Law Business Report.
Land Rover, above and beyond.
Thank you for joining me on the Big Law Business Report, where big law meets big business. I'm your host, Brian Brown. I want to thank the lawyers from Ogletree Deakins for joining me today. Homer Deakins, Matt Keene, Michelle Wimes, Melissa Bailey, and Sarah Hawk. I also want to thank our sponsors, to which the Big Law Business Report would not be possible. PVI Furniture, Hudson Court Reporting, and Don Byer Volvo and Don Byer Land Rover. Everybody have a great week. God bless you. God bless your families. And I'll see you next time on the Big Law Business Report, where big law meets big business.
What does your office furniture say about you and your company? Is it making the right impression for your company and your employees? At PVI Office Furniture, we have office furniture for every budget. We'll make sure your office space is sending the right message.
Fast, excellent, affordable. Business grows with PVI. Visit our showroom in Frederick, Maryland, or online at pvipvi.com.